Welcome, everyone. We're back today on another session with Michael in Germany on What Does the Bible Tell Us About Conspiracies, session number 16. And Michael, from what I remember of last session, we were discussing about a lot of the little factoids surrounding JFK, from what I remember. And looks like we're headed right back into it. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, hello, Brad. Hello, dear listeners. I don't want to bother anybody with anything which would be not important, but as we are Bible-believing Christians, and in these days, these people are just a few, I think that people who like to understand what ties there are in politics to the church or the church, then I think the best example, especially when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of conspiracies, is your President John F. Kennedy. Therefore, in the last session, I told you that in this session we will handle LBJ extensively. And yeah, that's what we are going to do, because he was the one who was profiting from the assassination. 2 hours and a few minutes ago, later, he was being sworn in with an oath on the Air Force One plane for being the next 36th President of the United States. So this is the floor here for Lyndon B Johnson, who allegedly said that on the day before the event or the assassination that this Kennedys will never embarrass him again, and that's not a threat, that's a promise. Yup. So that was the testimony of his mistress, Madeleine Brown. Yep. And he was a Jesuit-trained so-called Protestant. You know that these Jesuits are everything for anybody. And he was, as we have discovered, he was also knighted in the Civil and Military Order of Malta in 1961 during the presidency of Kennedy. And President Kennedy himself was not only president, but he was also present at the Knights of Columbus. He was a high-ranking Knights of Columbus. So don't fall for the trap that you think that these people are just randomly elected or sorted out. No, these people serve another purpose, and this is the purpose to catalyze the American states, United States of America, or the Universal States of America, the Catholic States of America, maybe. You see, there are some of your counties who are being named after Roman Catholic, I don't know what to say, names. Maryland.
Oh, there's so many of them, Michael.
Yeah.
It's nauseating. In fact, you just don't think of it until you really research it and discover on your own how much of this is going on. And not only that, but you have these double agents in disguise, working everywhere, and they're embedded into your school systems, into your government, into the churches, of course, probably primarily in the church first before anything else, because, yeah, Michael, it's a church and state combination of things going on that the people aren't aware of, actually, because last thing anyone wants to think of is a religious war, Michael, in this country. It's the last thing.
And imagine, Brad, that was 60 years ago. And now you are having officially another Roman Catholic Irish president.
That's correct. Yes, we had an assassination of the first Roman Catholic president, who actually turns out he was, probably very much aware of the real problem. And just like Abraham Lincoln couldn't really tell the people straight up, so he had to do it in his speeches and things like that. You can tell in the Secret Society's speech that, if you've heard before, is so interesting that he brought that to light. But anyway, Michael, I just think it's really important you bring that up. That we're being taught to be Catholic without our knowledge, in the sense of ratio studiorum.
Yeah, we will, in a few sessions from now, we will also discover, if you don't know that already, that the American states have been founded on the basis of a secret society. So what do we expect? To have a free country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the new world, or what? No, this is absolutely the same. It has just been founded under the disguise of the Roman Catholic Church, and you see that everywhere. You see that also with Donald Trump, and he's telling you right in the face. I think it was 2 years ago when he told you that he will fight any anti-Catholic biased opinion or something like this.
Well,
So
and the thing of it is, you don't ever hear about those things, Michael, unless you listen to his appeal to the Catholic people. That's what makes this so difficult. Is yeah, it becomes more of a religious thing, and yeah, if you ask me, Michael, if you just walk up and down the street in any of the United States cities and you ask people about religion, they look at you like, who is this guy? Why do you want to ask me about what I think of, they just think you're crazy, like you're from a different world or something, because I think what's happened is we've seen the death of what true Protestantism is anymore. It doesn't exist in the institutions. It's all been wiped out and replaced with Jesuitism. So you have Jesuitism everywhere in the movies and in the, all of the different politics and of course in the school systems and in the churches, everything. So people are used to it, that they expect Jesuitism now. So that's what they get. They get just a huge heaping load of Jesuitism, and they can't make sense of it because they've never studied what the Council of Trent is or anything historically, significant to what the Reformation really was and why there is a Counter-Reformation, why there are so many Jesuits working to destroy anything that's left of that Protestant heritage in order to, completely control the outcome. And that's really what we're up against here. And that's why we're going back to JFK, isn't it, Michael? It's
just only, of course, it's just an example. I'm no fan of Kennedy or anybody.
No, it's a primary example.
It's just so interesting because usually people don't talk about
and also,
religion and politics.
And also you have the fact that Vatican Council II did not take place till after, I believe it was just after, wasn't it after the assassination, or was it during? When did it start now, Vatican Council II? I got to look it up.
Yeah, we will show that to the people.
But I think it was around that time, Vatican Council II, the assassination of Kennedy.
Yeah, 62 to 65, so it was exactly happening at the same time.
Okay, there we go.
So during the presidency.
Yeah,
and he was assassinated. He was assassinated 13 months after the Vatican Second Council started.
Okay. So it's
watch for this world.
Yes, of course. Ecumenical councils. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a history behind ecumenism, Michael. A big history that, you don't hear much about, especially in your church, and you should. And really should.
Every time it strikes me when you see the resemblance between the design of the St. Peter's Basilica and
our Washington D.C. and every Capitol building in the United States.
Yeah, and Capitol means the Temple of Jupiter. Yeah, it really means the capital of Jupiter. The capital. Meaning, I know from the etymology it means that. They don't tell you that.
No, you're right. It says in the dictionaries too. A good dictionary will tell you that.
Yeah, the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are all agents for the Pope. And there was one agent for the Pope with the name of John F. Kennedy, who was a Knight of Columbus, who was there to conquer America for the Spanish crown, who was the most servant royal family to the Vatican. And he was fighting other knights of the Pope in the form, for example, of Alan Dulles, who was a Knight of Malta. So can you imagine that it's really a battle of knights in the background, where in the foreground or out in the open, it seems, oh yeah, these are the Democrats versus the Republicans. This is Kennedy versus Dulles. No, there is much more to it, because usually you don't hear anything about the religious background, and that's what we're trying to cover up.
Oh, goodness. You know, Michael, when you look up the word Optimus Maximus in Wikipedia, and there's a few bullet points there, and I'll just wait till you're there. Optimus Maximus. This should be a Wikipedia link.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few bullet points. Jupiter, what is this? Dionysius? Jupiter Dionysius.
I don't see it here. I'm just stuck on the Optimus Maximus.
Why don't I send you that here quick on Skype?
Ah, I know. I got it. Got it already.
Yeah, there it is. Now you go Jupiter Dionysius there.
Mm-hmm.
Click on the name, the blue link.
This here?
Below that, just below that. That one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Click on that. Isn't that an interesting little photo there?
Mm-hmm.
That looks like the backside of the dollar bill, doesn't it?
Oh, you're a theorist.
I sure am. Oh, it's the mystery cult. Hey, they want to make a new Roman mystery cult in the United States. I think they've been working on that for a while, Michael.
Oh, is there a new, or didn't we had 500 several things of the same thing aren't enough, so we need a 501.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Hmm.
Very interesting. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up since I was looking.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I did not cover the Roman Empire and the science as a new religion, but I thought, oh, when I start that, it would never finish.
Oh, we'll never end if we start that.
Yeah,
that is
because it's just a repetition.
ending.
It's just a repetition of Egyptian, Greek, Medo-Persian, Babylonian, Akkadian, and whatever gods. Yeah, it's just another name for another period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but very interesting you bring up Jupiter because, it's an ancient Roman cult, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, nothing new. I mean, you know, that's what Mystery Babylon is all about, and that's kind of what the United States is modeled after, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no real surprise to anyone that's done the research, Michael, but to those that have not done the research yet, then this is not good news. So, yeah. It's like having your eyes pried open. You know, you don't want to let the light in, but look, you know. What does it say in the Bible? That everything is going to be, all the truth will come out eventually, you know, if you want it. The question is, do you want it, dear listener? You know, do you really want it enough? You have to go out and cultivate that on your own, do your own research, make it your own property, own the truth. You know, we have to own the truth. We should buy the truth and sell it not, is what the Bible says, Michael.
Yeah, people need to venerate and bow down to images and idols, as you see. If it is a golden calf, or if it is a sculpture of God Jupiter, or if it is a statue of Kennedy, people bow down in front of other things instead of admitting that they were created by a creator of the name of Jesus Christ. I don't see any difference in kneeling down to a Roman god or to a Greek god or to Olympia or partake into Olympian games. People are absolutely used to do so, and to set somebody, to get somebody a stage, and that Usain Bolt then gets the first place. You see that people actually are doing this. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. You see, these are the supreme gods here of Olympia. Yeah.
Elevated, yeah.
Yeah, elevated. These are the Zeus of today. Yeah, but people don't know what's it all about. They don't know why they are carrying a torch. They don't know that. Usually they don't. I don't expect them to know that. But that's I'm not 25 anymore. You see, I'm supposed to know this when I'm doing a radio broadcast. So this Knight of Malta, Vice President Johnson, then new President Johnson, also was knighted. Also knighted was Kenneth Keating, a senator from New York, and also Henry Cabot Lodge, the United States ambassador to the United Nations, as the United States of America didn't have any ambassador then. For a long time, they had a special delegate or so, it was named, who would later become United States President Richard Nixon's personal ambassador to the Vatican. And would you be surprised when you know that in the 1960s presidential campaign, Nixon lost to Kennedy? And would you be surprised that on the day before the event took place, that Kennedy was assassinated, on the day before this famous or infamous Clinton-Murchison meeting where LBJ says, "This son of a will not embarrass me again," that Nixon also attended. Officially, I thought, if I remember correctly, he said that 2 days ago he went off, but I got a television broadcast, who said that Nixon left the town a few hours before Kennedy arrived. So he could be very well part of the plan, and later was being awarded becoming the next president, because he has lost against Mr. Kennedy. And I know from some sources that Archbishop, the so-called Pope of the United States, Francis Cardinal Spellman, was then promoting Mr. Nixon instead of Mr. Kennedy. Yeah, now you know what's what. So it is absolutely possible that Nixon is also part of the deal and part of the plan of the assassination. And I always said that this Watergate scandal has nothing to do with only getting rid of Nixon. I think it has something much more to do with the assassination of Kennedy than with anything else. So that was also a warning what happened place, because there were almost the same people involved in the Watergate scandal who were also involved in the assassination plot on Kennedy. But maybe that we will touch on a later session, because otherwise we will really need 250 sessions. So we know that Lyndon B Johnson had been knighted in 1961. And much more, because the then vice president under the president of Kennedy, he received the John Carroll Award from the Jesuit Georgetown University in 1963, just before the Jesuits assassinated the sitting United States President Johnson. That is that website promoting, but you see that could very well be, and that there is a Jesuitical tie to the assassination, for me, is 100% sure, and I will show you that in a few sessions. So he received also the John Carroll Award from the Jesuit University in 1963. What a coincidence, huh? What a coincidence. Yeah, smiling all over the place, and all over the face, and all over the place. Yeah, that was held in the same Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, where I think it is used to be to hold this Al Smith dinner.
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely correct.
Yeah, and you see here the president of the Alumni Association, then Vice President Johnson, and Edward Bunn, S.J. Georgetown president. Was established, this award, in 1951 to honor alumni whose achievement exemplify the ideals and traditions of Georgetown University, blah, blah, blah. So for Jesuitical the application of Jesuitical principles, to say that in a few words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was going on. Let's have a look on the 12th of October, 1963. That means to the date of the assassination on the 22nd of November, these are just 41 days. So 7 weeks before he was being awarded with the John Carroll dinner. So he was awarded for thinking, acting, whatsoever, Jesuitically. And there are many people who are also Jesuiticized. James Rowley, the head of the United States Secret Service, when John F. Kennedy was murdered. Oh, the United States Secret Service. Wasn't that the Secret Service who did not protect JFK on the 22nd?
Yeah.
Now, maybe you know why. He had a brother who was a Jesuitical priest. And you can go on and on and on and on and on. It's very interesting also to know, and later on I found out why Mr. Johnson had a landslide victory in 1964, because he had, of course, he was being known as the vice president, and as vice president you cannot do much wrong. You are just a smiling face behind the president. And he had a landslide victory with 486 votes to 52 votes. And that is a big reason, and we will cover up that, I don't know, in the next session or so, I think. When we assume that the religious convictions of Kennedy was the major threat to the establishment, so to speak, so then every religious thing or decision is another path to the assassination. And if you then know that there is a famous or infamous speech on the separation of church and state, which we have gotten into extensively, when he said that I am not the Catholic candidate for presidency, I am the Democratic candidate for presidency who happened also to be a Catholic. This website here assumes that this got him killed, being a liberal Catholic, and I would absolutely agree on that. But now you see there is a big difference, because despite of Kennedy, who didn't want to finance Roman Catholic Church by state money or by taxpayers' money, actually, the Jesuitically trained Lyndon Johnson passed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act in 1965. This got Uncle Sam giving billions to the Catholic schools. Yeah. I don't think that this will be covered in the usual John F. Kennedy documentation, but it is absolutely important that you know that Johnson did everything he could for the Roman Catholic Church, including taxpayers' money. While officially Protestant, he was educated by Jesuits at Georgetown and was sworn in on a Catholic mission as he took the oath of presidency after John Kennedy was murdered. Yeah. Johnson's war on poverty also gave billions to Catholic charities and Catholic relief services, violating the Constitution. Kennedy would have never committed such treason. That is absolutely spot on correct, because Kennedy was being criticized extremely by our very unfriendly Cardinal Spellman. On that regard, I think it was 3 days before his inauguration, he had much trouble with Spellman, and the nickname of Spellman is by no coincidence the American Pope. And now you compare, please, that picture with the picture you have maybe already in mind with the small chair and the big chair when John F. Kennedy met the Pope, and now the Pope is meeting LBJ. And yeah, you see, birds of a feather.
Yes. Flock together. Sure do.
Pope Paul VI talking to United States President Lyndon B Johnson during a visit in New York, October the 8th, 1965. Yeah? Now it is absolutely no problem that the American Pope is talking to the president. John F. Kennedy had a hard time in his presidential campaign in 1960, but that's how times are changing. Johnson's is everything for anybody. Yeah, Protestants on the outside and Montaigne Catholic on the inside. Yeah, compare that with this picture. He likes to show everybody who's the boss of the world, who's the powerful man in the world. And John F. Kennedy says, okay, I'm obliged to many things and I will here sit still. And he's surrounded, of course, by people who are in the service of the Vatican. Yeah, and he has to bow down a bit to the Pope. Yeah, and now compare that to Lyndon B Johnson. It's you don't have to read text, you only have to look at the pages, the images sometimes. Yeah. John F. Kennedy was often visiting the Vatican, also from a young age, and for different popes, of course. This family Kennedy is Catholic to the bone, actually. Pope Pius XII, Hitler's pope, so to speak. So this is a very early picture when he was only in Senate, but not running for the presidency. Yeah, but the family of Kennedy were devout, not only devout Catholics, but devout papists. Huh? Yeah. But it's a problem because many people are serving God, but God, as we have heard from the general of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa, God is a tricky word because how, which, what, and etc., etc. So that is which God we are talking about. Yeah? So this is heading towards to a united, unified, universal church. Oh, universal church. Mm-hmm. Where God is something for anybody, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also said that this current situation is no accident. When it is no accident, it means it has been planned. Yeah, so who are the crucified people of today? We will find out in the few years, I think. Yeah. And you can go on and on and on and on, but you only have to see that all these people have a different agenda in the background because they are serving the Pope. They are all serving the Pope. Yeah. The one is a Knight of Columbus, the other is a Knight of Malta, the next is a Knight of the Grand Cross of Order of St. Sylvester. Yeah. You see that General Thomas Power, commander of the United States Strategy Air Command, and his wife received papal honors from Archbishop Burgeon at Omaha. General was invested as Knight of the Grand Cross of the Order of Sylvester, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you see all these people are knighted in the background. When, after they have done service to the Pope, to the papacy, to the Vatican. So that every time you run into a thing that a politician, an actress, a singer, or whosoever has been knighted, that means that he had done some service to the papacy. And there are many, many, many examples in the satanic media agenda and music agenda. I can tell you.
Think of one prime one right now.
Yeah, you mean Phil Collins, I think.
Bono of U2.
Oh, and Bono, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. But you see that, of course, the man behind the scene is Francis Cardinal Spellman. You see that it is not John President Kennedy, but Francis Cardinal Spellman. So he bears his title even in his name. He's the Archbishop of New York. He's the high-ranking Roman Catholic of the United States of America. Now, and he's working together with the family of, or one member of the family of Rockefeller. Yes, birds of a feather once again. Once again. There are many, many, many people. You see that all they are together in the same boat. Yeah. And he didn't swear on the Bible, which is not a bad thing necessarily. Yeah, but swearing is a bad thing after all. Yeah.
Biblically speaking, yes.
Biblically speaking, yes.
Very much so. It's was it in the book of James, I think, yeah?
Mm-hmm. I think too. We have
swear not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's him. That's him on the first the official picture on the plane, as you can see. And that's the second more interesting picture. And he was smiling together to somebody else. It does not look like people were sad about the assassination of Kennedy 2 hours later. Or weren't they? Yeah? Smiling, smiling, smiling. Yeah, benefiting, benefiting, benefiting. Ah, she became First Lady. Yeah, that's how the tables have been turned. 2 hours and 8 minutes later. He was sworn in. Yeah, and there are so many disinformation that Jackie Kennedy then had a brain splatter stain still on her suit and had the same dress. And I highly doubt that. I think that she had a second dress on, and that is not the only lie which has been coming forward when it comes down to the assassination date of John F. Kennedy. But this is here a congressman, Albert Thomas, winks at President Lyndon Johnson during the swearing-in ceremony on board on Air Force One. So this is Mr. Albert Thomas. Maybe it's just me, but this is not the face of a person particular in mourning. That looks more like, wow, we did it, or we succeeded, or finally, or whatever you would like to interpret into. Yeah? That did not look like people were very sad and crying and handkerchiefs everywhere. No. No.
By the way, Michael, that section in the Bible about swear not at all is actually in Matthew and in James.
Yeah.
Matthew 5:33 through 35 gives a really good example.
Yeah, I know we talked about it already. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
if you want to read it, please. But I know that
I will actually, if you'd like.
Yeah. Then let's look it up. Then I know that last time we were looking for it actually, and therefore
Matthew chapter 5 verse 33. (33) through 35 reads, "Again, ye have heard that it has been said of them of old time, Thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king." And then 36 goes on to say, "Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou cannot make one hair white or black, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil." Yeah, so 33 through 37, actually.
Yeah, these people do not care for the Bible, you see, that these people care for power.
Well, Catholicism is all about, political power rather than, a biblical truth. Yeah.
If you are a Catholic politician, you see that you are a member of the wealthiest church on earth. So it is the absolute contradiction to the Bible.
Yeah, it's a power play. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you don't just have like the Vicar of Christ, Michael. It's a replacement for Christ.
Yeah. Why are all these people, these powerful, influential, and wealthy people? Why are they all Roman Catholics? Because they don't have to sacrifice their wealth. Jesus said then to a rich man who asked him that he can follow him, and he says, "Okay, then put away all your wealthy belongings and follow me." And you know what the outcome was. But in Roman Catholicism, you don't have to sacrifice money. You are wealthy and you stay wealthy, and so that all these so-called rich, influential people, these are wealthy people, very wealthy people. Kennedy said if he's elected, he will not bow down for the Vatican, so he will not obey the Pope, because the Pope, on the syllabus on errors, for example, has condemned every worldly government. That's what JFK got killed. And people don't believe it. If somebody is now listening to that very session here, they won't believe it, but they have to believe it when I will present all the things surrounding the event of the assassination and afterwards. And then you will see that, oh my. If you don't compare or you don't connect politics with religion here, you won't get the truth. If you exclude God, you see that God is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
So then we are going into these into the thing of Mr. LBJ. Oh my, oh my, oh my! I can tell you, my, oh my, oh my, oh my. There are so many things now coming up that I don't know how you see Lyndon B Johnson, but wow, this man is really something. And I'm not admiring him, but he is very straight. Yeah, he is very straight. You don't have to guess. He's very straight. He's so straight. Yeah. Accompanied by Reverend Billy Graham, the President and Mrs. Johnson joined Sunday services at the National City Christian Church. And you tell me that he's a Protestant, huh? Yeah, haha. During his years in the White House, Lyndon Johnson had grown increasingly religious. Yes, I have to believe that, huh? He's grown increasingly rich. Yeah, religious, yes. It's unbelievable, but we will sort it out step by step by step.
Man, isn't that something? Throw Billy Graham in the mix there.
Yeah. In 1967, LBJ went to Roman Catholic Mass 14 times. Yeah, what kind of a Protestant is that, Brad? Huh?
That's no Protestant. Well, it's a double-minded one, Michael.
Yeah.
You have double-minded Protestants all over the place.
Yeah.
See, and they pass the worldly. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're very worldly people. Yes.
Yeah, but he gave money away big time to the Roman Catholic Church. Yeah, that's a very important thing that almost nobody is aware of today.
Right.
Yeah? Johnson enjoyed an amicable relationship with the Catholic hierarchy. They applauded his work for the poor and the old, yes, and appreciated his consideration of parochial schools. Parochial, sorry. Schools in the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. But the Church had long held that the rhythm method, limiting intercourse to times when a woman was not fertile, was the only permissible means of birth control. The Pope has reaffirmed that position early in the year, and though the American clergy were not as conservative, the bishop regarded government birth control programs heavily. But the thing is that he has signed the Elementary and Secondary Act that paved the way for much money to the Roman Catholic Church, signing the giveaway to Rome Elementary and Secondary Education Act into law at April the 11th, 1965. A thing that Kennedy would never have done. Yeah, that's the thing, that he was supporting the Roman Catholic Church. He was attaining Roman Catholic Mass 14 times as a Protestant. Ha ha ha, what a joke of a Protestant then, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Johnson said here, if that quote is correct, Johnson approved the act. He had called it the most important he had ever signed into law. Yeah. You see that if you receive the office of presidency with the support of the Roman Catholic Church, you then give something back in. Yeah, so that is my estimation. Okay, I cannot prove it because I cannot look into the heart and the mind of Mr. Johnson, but we shall know them by the fruits, and there are many, 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 many fruits which will come up soon. Johnson was born and reared in a strongly Protestant environment in Central Texas. At the time of his birth, 74% of all Texans who claimed church membership were Protestants. Yeah, on paper. The four most populous denominations which claim 70% of the Protestants were Baptist, Methodist, Disciples, and Presbyterians. Yeah, they will claim to be Protestant, yes, but this is just a claim then. This is just a claim then. Like his Baptist forebears, Johnson was a strong believer in the separation of church and state. Yes, that's why he then got the money from the taxpayers to the Roman Catholic Church, right? Yeah, that's theory and practice. 100 degrees in opposition. Yeah, it's just futile to go. But LBJ never wanted the church-state separation. On the outside, maybe, but he paved the way for the Roman Catholic Church. He even went to Roman Catholic Mass. What do you think? What his real beliefs are? When he was being a Knight of Malta, yeah, a Knight of Malta and a John Carroll Award by Jesuit Georgetown University. So this is all BS here. It's BS. Yeah, he was a Knight of Malta, and the Knight of Malta are being controlled by the Jesuits. So the Knight of Malta consider themselves, maybe, if you would like to say that so, doing the dirty work. The knights, yeah, the strike force, the soldiers, not the spiritual entities, not the spiritual exercises behind it, but the people who are really slaughtering people, the knights. They have a sword. They do not work with their mouth. Okay, politicians do, but you see that Johnson was heavily involved in the Vietnam War. And that was Spelly's war. That was the war of Cardinal Spellman. Yeah. That's the problem with it. Yeah. You also can cover that in the book of Avro Manhattan, a knight himself. The book is called The Vatican Billions. Quote, at the same time as the war on poverty created by Jesuit-trained Lyndon Johnson got underway, the federal government increasingly contracted with Catholic charities agencies to provide welfare services. What does the Bible say about welfare? Those agencies, imbued with their new faith in government's potential to solve social problems, eagerly accepted government money. Catholic charities received nearly a quarter of its funding from government by the end of the 60s, over half by the late 70s, and more than 60% by the mid-80s, where it had remained ever since. Big time. Money. Big time. That's the thing. Here, he says in the book Vatican Billions, Avro Manhattan, page 178, the most impressive of such Roman Catholic units are those in the educational and medical fields. Isn't that the problem today at medicine? Here, the Catholic Church has become truly not a nation within a nation, but a religious finance empire within the United States Federation. Her educational machine is operated from kindergarten to graduate universities via all the intermediary stages. Her medical machine from the humblest clinics to the most up-to-date, efficient hospitals. Yeah, it's all run on money, of course. If you don't obey the official doctrine, you won't be supported by them. Sure. This is a problem then. So, when Mr. Cardinal Spellman died on December 2nd, 1967, President Johnson lost one of the most ardent backers of his war policy. Johnson's arrival at the funeral was secretive for fear of demonstrations, because, of course, people knew that Johnson was one of the most responsible politicians ever for the aggressive Vietnam War, where thousands of people have lost their children. Not only on the side of the Americans, but also on the side of the Vietnamese people, please. Yeah. You see here, during Lyndon B Johnson's administration, Congress passed and the President signed the Federal Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which siphoned an annual $286 million. Yeah, annual. 286 million. That would be, I think, a billion in today's money at least. Yeah, handing over money big time. Yeah, so many things when you look it up. So many things coming up. You can do 100 sessions about the entire finance of the Roman Catholic Church, which had been done with that act, where supposedly Johnson said it was the most important law he ever signed. Huh? Yeah, Mr. Johnson was not only a Knight of Malta, he also was supposedly a member of the Johnson City Lodge in Johnson City. Huh? Johnson, member of Johnson City in Johnson. Yeah, okay, that's quite logical, huh? But he only received the entrant apprentice degree and chose not to continue with his Masonic work. Yeah, because there are other more important matters for him. Yeah. Yeah, and also Johnson has been visited by Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, who had been visited by some Jesuits. Martin Luther King also quotes Saint Augustine and Saint Thomas Aquinas. So don't think that ever he would have achieved something else. You see that he was under the control, as far as I know, from the Jesuits as well. Yeah, and they control your thinking into handing over some kind of a flat head. Yeah, that has all his symbolic means. Yeah, don't think for yourself. You're not being awarded to think for yourself. You're being awarded to repeat like a parrot. Yeah, this Martin Luther King. When you look upon some letters of him, letter from Birmingham jail here, for example, he is quoting here the terms of Saint Thomas Aquinas. Yeah, and this was a so-called doctor of the Roman Catholic Church, one of the high-ranking idols of the Roman Catholic Church, mixing up the holy with the profane, meaning the Latin Bible together with philosophy of the Greek. Yeah. Coming back to Mr. Lyndon B Johnson, he had many strange friends, for example, sharpshooters, like Malcolm Wallace, and many so-called documentations that point out that there was an all-time dream team of professional killers involved in the assassination of Kennedy. And yeah, just wait to the sessions to come when we will cover that. But that's the problem, actually, that Lyndon B Johnson was also in bed with the, how to say that, with the mob, with the criminal people, and as well as Kennedy was. Kennedy's father owed the mafia his life because they protected him in the 1920s, and Kennedy's mafia ties served him very well in the election of his son, John F. Kennedy, into the presidency. Yeah. So it is correct that professional killers were being hired to kill the president, but that's just for another session. That has nothing to do with Lyndon B Johnson, because Lyndon B Johnson obviously did not kill Kennedy, because he was just riding behind in a vehicle, two vehicles behind the president, actually. No? Behind the president was the so-called Queen Mary with the Secret Service guards. We know that the brother of the chief of the Secret Service was also a Jesuit priest, but that's just a minor issue here. So people have to be sure that John F. Kennedy died because they want to have the way for the Roman Catholic Church, quite obviously. And people don't actually come across the fact that there is a military order in the Roman Catholic Church called the Jesuits, Regimini Militantis, so the military regime of the church, and they have also their fourth vow. And INRI does not mean the things that you supposed what they mean, but they mean it is just to eradicate and to eliminate heretical kings.
Yeah, it's I think it's RME. How does that go again? How do you say that? These are Latin words. I have real trouble with.
Justus Neca.
No, but there's also you were mentioning the military order of the church, which is
that's just the papal bull, Regimini Militantis Ecclesia.
Yeah, there you go. That's really important because that kind of defines, that papal bull defines how the order was set up. So, 1540. That's the beginning of it all, isn't it? With the Jesuits.
Yeah, and we have covered that they have to do it spiritually with the Ratio Studiorum and with their spiritual exercises, and also
in the extreme oath of the Jesuits, where you find the what is this? Istum necar regis impius. It is just and how's it go? It is just and pious to kill heretical kings and princes.
Heretical rulers.
There you go.
Yeah. So more or less.
Mm-hmm.
More or less. But we will go into this fourth vow when we are coming down to the day of the assassination, I think.
Oh, yes. Gotcha.
This is the German part. I did not cover the English part so far. So this is just a documentary telling you and selling you, selling you all the different shooters from different buildings. And sure, yeah, I can assure you, according to my research, that did not happen. The other things did happen, and what things will happen will very much surprise you, I hope. Because Lyndon B Johnson is here, or he is not to be seen here. Why can't we see Lyndon B Johnson? Because he was ducking down. On that very Elm Street where the assassination happened. That this picture has been taken seconds before the fatal headshot of Kennedy. So Lyndon B Johnson's not to be seen, but yeah, that's quite on another thing. So this LBJ is a very hilarious movie because as LBJ starring as Woody Harrelson, it's a son, is an actor, the son of one of the accused killers of John F. Kennedy. It's very funny if you know all the ties between it. And that LBJ cannot be seen because LBJ ducked for strange reasons. So there are many things happening on that day. And I found a very interesting website, and I think I will switch to that website because very conveniently, it's not only from the Education Forum, but very conveniently, it is absolutely in English. So I don't have to skip and I don't have to stutter. Now, please listen to the things that I'm telling you, or just read it for yourself, please, because this is the political background of the assassination so far. Not the religious, but one of the most interesting political background. When Lyndon B Johnson became vice president in 1960, he decided he would record some of his telephone calls he made or received. Once again, I'm not doing it for your entertainment. I'm just doing it for you to hand over valuable information that when we got into the assassination, then later on, that you can combine the things and you can exclude things, and then you draw the connections on your own. That is very important, not to listen to me, not to obey anybody, but to do the things with common sense. And therefore, you will need to have some information in the background. So Johnson was highly powerful guy, and we will see that there are many things going on that very 22nd of November. So when Lyndon Johnson became vice president in 1960, he decided he would record some of the telephone calls he made or received. He then arranged for his personal assistant, Mildred Stiegel, to make transcripts of these conversations. He told her that he wanted to use them to help him write his memoirs. From what we know of LBJ, it is highly probable that he wanted to use this material to blackmail the people who he was talking to. He also exchanged this information with J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. Let me tell you that J. Edgar Hoover also had a very fancy electronic surveillance system that nobody on that time, or almost nobody, was being aware of. LBJ later destroyed some of these tapes and transcripts. The rest were handed over to Mildred Stiegel with instructions that when he died, this material had to be destroyed. Fortunately for us, this website admin, John Simpkins, says that she did not obey. If that is correct, you see that everything can be faked. Instead, she packaged them up into 8 Federal Record Centers boxes, and after marking them top secret, they were sent to the LBJ library. After passing the John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, requests were made for these transcripts to be released. Around 10% were held back on grounds of national security. Can you smell something?
Yeah.
But the rest were released to the public on 13th of November 1993. So you would never ever get the truth from your government, be it the LBJ, be it JFK.
Of course not. No, yeah? No.
These transcripts give an insight into the thoughts of LBJ in the days following the assassination. They show that one subject dominated his thinking during that period. The subject that was his primary importance to LBJ was the Senate investigation into the activities of Bobby Baker. LBJ was not the only one interested in the Bobby Baker case. In the weeks leading up to the assassination, the Bobby Baker investigation was the most important political story of the time. The death of JFK changed all that. Yes, in the favor of LBJ. It also enabled LBJ to use his position as president to prevent the publication of details of his corrupt relationship with Baker. J. Evetts Haley, a Texas businessman, was the first person to publish a book linking the Bobby Baker scandal with the assassination of Kennedy. A Texan Look ex Lyndon was published in 1964. It was a bestseller, and it is claimed that in Texas only the Bible outsold Haley's book that year. In the book, Haley attempted to expose Johnson's corrupt political activities. This included a detailed look at the relationship between Johnson, Bobby Baker, and Billy Saul Estes. Haley pointed out that 3 men who could have provided evidence in court against Johnson, George Krutilek, Harold Orr, and Howard Pratt, all died of carbon monoxide poisoning from car engines. You see that in the old days, cars were not equipped with ceramic or catalytic converters, and therefore they had the emission of carbon monoxide. Nowadays, in the old days, they tell you that now they only are admitting environment-friendly carbon dioxide, which is CO2. But the problem is now that the scientists of the Vatican tell you that CO2 is the big climate killer. Yeah, I'm not making it. I'm not making it up. I'm not really making it up. Monoxide. If you use common sense, please. Yeah, if you use common sense, yeah, you see all these lies. Simplest molecule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that carbon monoxide means 1 carbon and 1 oxide. Yeah. So mono means 1. So, and then if you add another oxygen, then you got carbon dioxide, yeah, dio. Yeah. So then that the problem is that many people were killed due to running cars in garage, and so that these cars were emitting high amounts of carbon monoxide. This was a poisoning method which was very famous, infamous, prominent, whatever you like to call it. Yeah, so that's the reason also why then cars were equipped with the catalytic converters. I don't know if that is covered in here. Catalytic converter, so that these exhaust gases then were being emitted as produce carbon dioxide, so with 2 oxygen components. Yeah, but nowadays they tell us that carbon dioxide now it's a acided colorless gas. Sorry. And it occurs in Earth's atmosphere, but it's very dangerous. It's just only about 0.04%, but this is the absolute climate killer. Yeah, because every living creature which has the breath of God is exhaling CO2. And if you want to follow the so-called Club of Rome and ask yourself why that Club of Rome, please, is located in the city of Rome. Yeah. Club of Rome. Yeah, in English, please. Yeah, the Club of Rome. Oh, Rome, with Rockefeller and many other peoples. Yeah, and so they had a book printed in 1972, The Limits to Growth. Yeah, and so they will claim that the problem is an overpopulation. Yeah, because that overpopulation.
Yeah.
Overpopulation will then be responsible for the emission of CO2.
Isn't the Club of Rome a think tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a think tank. Yeah, great. Just what the world needs. Another think tank, eh?
Yeah, wasn't tanks the things that carried soldiers and killed other people?
Yeah, right.
Wasn't tank, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are other people too. There is some strange guy here who has a strange formula. I don't know if I can cover that here. Formula equation CO2. Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. Forbes released a math formula that will solve all your problems. Yeah. Or created. Yeah. Or created. Where is that formula? Come on, Billy boy. Where is that formula? Show me that formula. Show Daddy the formula. Yeah, that's the formula. Yeah. People by services, by energy, by CO2 is the total amount. And if you want to reduce the total amount of CO2 or to get rid of any emission of CO2, then you have to get rid of energy per services or services per person or of people in general. And not only people, but also animals. I don't want to spoil your evening, but you see, that is what we are, in my humble opinion, are facing. And of course, people does not include him, I could bet. So all people who could confess in court against Johnson died of carbon monoxide poisoning from car engines. Now, what a coincidence. Now, 3 people in a row would die from carbon monoxide poisoning. He also argued that Johnson was responsible for the deaths of Henry Marshall and John Douglas Kinzer, a man that Mac Wallace, so his contract killer who was hired by LBJ and also was defended by LBJ as a lawyer, was convicted of killing in 1951. Wallace had been working for Johnson since 1950s, and so on and so on. So in May 1998, Walt Brown called a press conference in Dallas to discuss a previously unidentified fingerprint at a sniper's nest in the Texas School Book Depository. Very interesting, huh? So that 35 years later, they find his fingerprint. Yeah, sure. We have to believe that, huh? You have to believe that. This fingerprint has now been identified as belonging to Wallace. That does not necessarily mean that Wallace did a shot from that building. It just means that his fingerprint was found there. It does not necessarily also mean that he was up there. It just means that they found a fingerprint. So that is not a final proof of anything. Haley also suggested that Johnson might have been responsible for the death of John Kennedy. Johnson wanted power, and with all of his knowledge of political strategy and his proven control of Congress, he could see wider horizons of power as vice president than as Senate majority leader. In effect, by presiding over the Senate, he could now conceive himself as virtually filling both high and important positions, and he was not far from wrong. The journalist Joachim Jösten was one of the first journalists to write a book on the Kennedy assassination. He could not get a publisher in the United States, haha, why is that? And so had to come to Britain to get Oswald, Assassination of Fall Guy, published in 1964. In the book, Jösten claimed that Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, Catholics in Action, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Dallas Police Department, and a group of right-wing Texas oil millionaires conspired to kill Kennedy. Yeah. They did. But the more interesting subjects are excluded here for several reasons. In 1968, Jösten published The Dark Side of Lyndon B Johnson. In the book, Jösten claimed the Baker scandal then is truly the hidden key to the assassination, or more exact, the timing of the Baker affair crystallized the more or less vague plans to eliminate Kennedy, which had already been in existence. The threat of a complete exposure which faced Johnson in the Baker scandal provided that final impulse. He was forced to give the go-ahead signal to the plotters who had long been waiting for the right opportunity. We now know that during the period, the FBI and CIA were putting out rumors that Jösten was a KGB agent who was attempting to undermine the United States government. But that is not so interesting here. That is not so interesting. So here, continuation here, please. At the age of 14, Baker became a page in the Senate. He was befriended with Lyndon B Johnson and eventually became secretary to the Senate Majority Leader, so LBJ. At this time, he obtained the nickname Little Lyndon. Harry McPherson, another Johnson aide, described Baker as he was very smart, very quick, and please help me out here, indefatigable.
I'm trying to. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a difficult word there. Yeah, I can't help you much there, Michael.
So he was indefatigable, and you make up that word on your own, please. Just word all the time. He was already running. He was always running someplace to make. It's kind of
like indefeatable, but
I don't know what it is actually. I don't use that word.
Indefatigable. I don't know.
Yeah, Johnson also used Baker to obtain political information. He told him, watch their hands, watch their eyes, read eyes, no matter what a man is saying to you, it's not important as what you can read in his eyes. Yeah, what did we read in the eyes and in the gesture of LBJ when he was being sworn in with his oath that he was pleasant? It was pleasant for in his eyes, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that is the Bobby Baker affair. So that could have brought LBJ down politically and even could have brought LBJ down to jail. Yeah, so that was a very, very, very big problem for LBJ, which solved, disappeared, vanished into thin air after the assassination on President Kennedy. That's the thing. Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover also is not in bed, sorry, but connected to the organized crime, the mob. Yeah, but everybody was. Yeah, LBJ was, JFK was, everybody was in bed with the mob. And who's in bed with the mob also? Well, you see that the mob originally came from Italy, doing the dirty work for another state in Rome, by the way. Yeah. In the 1950s, Bobby Baker was Johnson's key political advisor. Yeah, and so this Baker convinced Mr. Johnson to take the job as a vice president because actually initially Johnson wanted to run for office on his own, but he couldn't do that. Yeah, and if Kennedy would have been defeated, Johnson could have blamed on Kennedy's Catholic religion and be the likely victor in the attempt to be the Democratic Party candidate in the 1964 election. He could not and would not and should not run for the presidency because he was in an instant president, yeah, due to the assassination of Kennedy. Baker remained as Johnson's secretary and political advisor when Johnson was being the vice president. He continued business with Levis and Giancana, so with the mob, etc., 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 etc. Baker has also established a cooperation with other peoples, and so they were having money and ties and business ties, etc., etc., etc. Rumors began circulating that Baker was involved in corrupt activities. Although officially his only income was that of a secretary to the majority in the Senate, he was clearly a very rich man. Baker was investigated by Attorney General Robert Kennedy, that is, of course, the younger brother of JFK. He discovered Baker had links to Clint Murchison, that's the very oil millionaire, where the meeting allegedly took place, where LBJ and Nixon then were meeting together, and where LBJ then taught his mistress that they want to get rid of Kennedy. He discovered Baker, so Robert Kennedy discovered Baker had links to Clint Murchison, yes, that oil millionaire, and several mafia bosses. Evidence also emerged that Lyndon Johnson was also involved in political corruption. This included the award of a $7 billion contract for fighter plane, the F-111 TFX tactical fighter, to General Dynamics, a company based in Texas, because that Lyndon B Johnson was a governor in Texas before. He was vice president. He was coming from Texas, and of course he was being busy with having contracts for businesses and companies in Texas. And so that's also my first assumption when I said that, of course, it happened in Texas. And as Lyndon B Johnson knows every man, every mouse in Texas, you see that he can really have much influence in that county. Evidence also emerged that Lyndon Johnson was also involved in political corruption. Yeah. In 1962, John Williams, the senator from Delaware, began to investigate the activities of Bobby Baker. One of his first discoveries was that Bobby Baker had bought a house for his attractive secretary, Nancy Carroll Tyler. Baker later commented in his autobiography, Wheeling and Dealing: Confessions of a Capitol Hill Operator, I bought a $28,000 house where Carroll Tyler lived in. It was a nice enough house, etc., etc., etc. No, I'm not going into this. According to W. Penn Jones Jr., Bobby Baker was about the first person in Washington to know that Lyndon Johnson was to be dumped as the vice president candidate in 1964. And this is a smoking gun here when it comes to politics. This is a smoking gun, dear audience. Baker knew that President Kennedy had offered the spot on the ticket to Senator George Smathers of Florida. Baker knew because his secretary, Miss Nancy Carroll Tyler, you remember that girl who lived in that house of Baker, roomed with one of George Smathers' secretaries, Miss Mary Jo Kopechne, who had been another of Smathers' secretaries. You know where Mary Jo Kopechne is? Mary Jo Kopechne. It's always very dangerous to have something to do with the Kennedys, I say. Mary Jo Kopechne was American secretary and one of the campaign workers also for United States Senator Robert F. Kennedy's 1968 presidential campaign, a close team known as the Boiler Room Girls. In 1969, she died in a car accident on Chappaquiddick Island while being driven by U.S. Senator Ted Kennedy. You see, that was an infamous car accident where he escaped and she drowned. And she is connected also with the Bobby Baker scandal and with LBJ and all the things. Yeah, so that is the very headline here from the heyday of Ted Kennedy, and also that what, in my humble opinion, that was what excluded Ted Kennedy from presidency. It is very dangerous to be together with the Kennedys because there is so much going on. And it's up to you if you consider this as an accident, okay? It's up to you. I didn't go into this. I'm not interested in the usual gossip. I'm only interested in the things who really are behind the scenes. And it seems to be that the major thing was that Johnson then knew on the 22nd of November when the assassination took place, he knew that he wasn't on the ticket when Kennedy would be elected or re-elected in 1964. That's the key thing to consider here. Yeah. Baker was having an affair with Tyler. What Williams did not find out that was why Baker was organizing sex parties in the house he had purchased for Tyler. Both Johnson and Hoover knew about these parties. Remember? Hoover had electronic surveillance and Johnson was writing everything down for his memoirs. In fact, it was a honeypot blackmail operation. Johnson found it fairly easy to get politicians to do what he wanted if they had been to any of his parties. It was also the place where political bribes were handed over. This was all recorded and added to the files kept by Johnson and Hoover. Yeah, that's what I assumed right from the beginning. Baker also owned the Cromwell Club, another place that was used to acquire information about politicians that could later be used for blackmail. You don't want to be part of any political party, I think. Johnson used people like Baker, Walter Jenkins, and Fred Black to pay money to these politicians. Once they had received money from the sources, they became under Johnson's control. In return, they got positions on important Senate committees. However, they always had to vote the way Johnson told them. According to Anthony Summers, The Secret Life of J. Edgar Hoover, Bill Thompson asked Bobby Baker if he would arrange the meeting between Ellen Romage and JFK. Baker later said that Kennedy sent back word it was the best time he ever had in his life. That was not the only time. She saw him on several occasions or other occasions. It went on for a while. Baker then told LBJ and Hoover about Kennedy's relationship with the German girl Ellen Romage. In July 1963, the FBI, meaning Mr. Hoover, questioned Romage about her past. They came to the conclusion that she was probably a Soviet spy. Hoover actually leaked information to the journalist Courtney Evans that Romage worked for Walter Ulrich, the communist leader of East Germany. When Robert Kennedy was told about this information, he ordered her to be deported. And you really think that LBJ as the vice president was a smart move by Kennedy? I can tell you that as much as I have found out, they only wanted to be part with the LBJ that they got the votes from the southern states, especially from Texas, because Texas has got many influence in the American Senate. Yeah. The FBI has discovered that there were several women at the Chrome Club run by Baker who had been involved in relationship with leading politicians. This included both John and Robert Kennedy. It was particularly worrying that this included Mariela Novotny, 17 years old, and Susie Chan, 18 years old. This was a problem because they both had initially came from communist countries and had been named as part of the spy ring that had trapped John Profumo, the British War Minister, a few months earlier. Kennedy told J. Edgar Hoover that he personally interested in having the story killed. It also explains why he asked his ambassador to London, David Bruce, to give him daily reports on the Profumo case. This is politics. There's nothing to do with being a representative of the state or to do anything for the people. It's just power against more power and to achieve more power or to stay in power or to have much more money. Yeah, if you are in power, you want to have more power. You see, we can go endlessly into this thing. But what really is interesting is that Johnson knew on the day of the assassination that he would be replaced, that he would not be on the ticket. So there was one guy politically who could lose all, including his freedom, or gain everything, and that is LBJ. If Kennedy was not in office anymore, then it would absolutely wipe out the problem with the Baker scandal, because it was just a game behind the scene between Kennedy and LBJ. And the Kennedys wanted to get rid of LBJ. And yeah, you know that who got rid of whom. It's a very interesting article here. It's from the Education Forum. I don't want to go endlessly into it, but it's really interesting. I have read it completely. And it is very interesting that you really see that was going on behind the scenes 60 years ago. Can you imagine what's going on today? I don't think that you want to know what's going on today. Who is paying which and what scandal is striking this and what scandal is striking there. Yeah, but it's about big money here. It's about big money. It's also about the big money when it comes down to the Vietnam War. There were millions or billions at stake. On stake. So sorry, on stake. The suggestion is that in November 1963, so during or before the assassination took place, JFK was being blackmailed by Baker. It's unbelievable. You can go into endlessly into this. I don't want to do this because actually you want to face about the religious ties. But you see that if there is somebody who profited from the assassination, it is absolutely spot on LBJ. Yeah, and LBJ was a Knight of Malta. LBJ was a Freemason. LBJ was visiting Roman Catholic Mass. So he was a Roman Catholic. Or let's say a better Roman Catholic than Kennedy, in the eyes of the papacy. There are many, many people who have done, who were being suicided or being killed or what else. Yeah, it's you can't stop if you once had read that article. Yeah. There's a daughter of some politician says, I believe one of the reasons Daddy was killed was because he knew that the government was being run by the military complex. Yeah, the military complex, the Supreme Military Order of Malta. That's the thing, that they don't want you and they cannot tell you, because first of all you don't have the evidence, and second of all you don't want to get killed also. And I suppose that I have not much friends in some kind of Catholic orders when we speak about that. But this is just American politics 60 years ago. We are just quoting an article here. We have no problem whatsoever personally with anybody who has a belief of a Buddhist, of an Islamist, of a Jew, of a Roman Catholic, of whosoever. We have to love everybody, but we have to face the fact that it is not that what it seems. You see that television is constantly lying to you, producing a Hollywood image of a Kennedy president, which has nothing to do with the actual things which happened on that November and before. You see that everybody strived to power, and Kennedy was no exception. And the one was blackmailing the other party, and you see that there's a big fight going on behind the scenes. It's not in front of the microphone, it's behind closed curtains or closed doors. LBJ wanted to become president. That was his initiative right from the start. And so you see that Kennedy has gotten in the way, especially when Kennedy threatened to push LBJ down the pit with the Bobby Baker scandal. So there has to be something to do with that. And you see that when J. Edgar Hoover, as the FBI, is working together with Johnson, and Johnson's the one who is officially setting up the Warren Commission to then research the assassination of Kennedy. You see that you can only constantly shake your head, because also the J. Edgar Hoover is the director of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, can you imagine when there are two bodies together? The one is the arch enemy of Kennedy, and the other has been angered by Kennedy big time. It's J. Edgar Hoover. Then you can imagine that these two have absolutely no sense in clearing up anything. You see, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, yeah, so they are collecting all the evidence, but not to then to show it to the general audience, but to hide them. There are many bullets, for example, which officially have been seen, never could be found. And other evidence which never could be found, and witnesses who have been silenced, and where people say then, oh no, we have been ridiculed by the police, etc., etc. There's coming up much more on this thing. But you see that after all, the Roman Catholic belief of LBJ, pushed him into the seat of the president. That's the thing. Once when he was president, he could suppress everything, or almost everything. And then he had the help of the FBI. The FBI was responsible for all the collection of the artifacts, of the evidence, of the things surrounding the assassination of Kennedy. So that is it's a small club. It's a very small club. Yeah, and so that people here presume that because they do exclude religion on that occasion here, they really think that this Bobby Baker scandal was the epitome of the reason of the assassination to Kennedy, and it has been done by the CIA with the support of LBJ, who profited then 2 hours later with the inauguration of being the 36th president. Yeah. You cannot make it up. You see that everybody knows something, and they have gotten rid of so many witnesses too. It's a very interesting page and very interesting article here with many links on it. The date of November the 22nd was spot on for several reasons, also political reasons. But in my humble opinion, as we are Bible-believing Christians, Brett, the religious reasons are far more important than any other things, because just the political reasons and the money and the power you receive is just the like Judas Iscariot received the 30 coins of silver.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that we have spoken enough of this episode on Lyndon B Johnson, I think, because we will go catch him another time, another place, another date, and you will see that how interesting it will be when we go into several things which happened that day. From the book, Evelyn Lincoln, so the secretary of Kennedy and Johnson, she wrote a book called Kennedy and Johnson. That is the big alarm bell here. That is that book, Kennedy and Johnson, Evelyn Lincoln. She says, have to enlarge it a bit here, sorry. She says, he had talked about Kennedy. He had talked and I had listened, but I did venture one question. We had not seen Mr. Johnson since he had left for Texas in late October. Now I asked, who is your choice as a running mate? He, speaking of JFK, looked straight ahead and without hesitating, he replied, "At this time, I'm thinking about Governor Terry Sanford of North Carolina, but it will not be Lyndon." It will not be Lyndon. Page 205 from the Secretary Evelyn Lincoln, Secretary of John F. Kennedy. So some people knew that Kennedy would not like to go on with Lyndon anymore. And Johnson's friend Fred Kurth was also being retracted. And also McNamara, the Minister of Defense, was being connected to that scandal there. So there was much going on. Another alarm bell here is that Ellen Romich girl. Sexual relationship with Kennedy. You see that many people would, or many women would have loved to have a sexual relationship. That is not necessarily proof. But that is a scandal here, which is also very interesting because of one thing. This Mr. Baker, he happened to be the initiator and treasurer of the Quorum Club. And of course, Ellen Romich met John F. Kennedy there. She was as pretty as Elizabeth Taylor. She was married to a sergeant in the German army. So it is, of course, a violation against one of the laws of the 10 Commandments of the Old Testament. But of course, they introduced Mrs. Romich to Kennedy, and presumably they both had a nice time. But then, of course, she was deported. Yeah, but she was not in Dallas when the assassination took place. Let me assure you that, because you see that Mr. Kennedy was on a campaign. Yeah, so this is a picture from December 1960 when he was just elected president. You see, that is a picture you need to get elected or to get re-elected. You do not need pictures with long-legged blonde or so. You need a picture with the people that you want to be voted from. So this is, you really need a picture which suits families so that you get elected president and or re-elected president on that behalf. The Kennedys and their son at christening. Yes, christening, yes. Yeah, and of course, Christmas Carol, and of course, a few days before Christmas. Yeah, these are all Roman Catholics. So I'm closing that session here. I'm closing that session with that remarkable picture here that you won't see much often here, with the smile from the Congressman Albert Thomas to LBJ, and the kind of a small smile from Lady Bird Johnson happened to be the First Lady. At the moment when LBJ is sworn in office as the president, she automatically, without being elected, of course, she was the First Lady. So everybody's smiling, almost everybody is smiling here. At least on the side of LBJ. Albert Thomas is his name. Albert Thomas. Winks back at the quickly smiling LBJ as he is being sworn in to be the next president of the United States on the airplane Air Force One, while the grief-stricken Jackie Kennedy stands next to him. Okay. This Albert Thomas is a protege of Texas Senator and later President Lyndon B Johnson. Yeah. And there's also something, because now you see that Thompson with a bow tie and stands here swearing at the United States President Lyndon B Johnson. So Thomas not only was a member of the Senate, but was also a member of the Suite 8F group, a group of influential businessmen that included his college roommate at Rice University, George F. Brown. But what's about the Suite F group? Who's been member there? It's John Connally, governor of Texas. That's the guy who sat right before Kennedy in the car when Kennedy was assassinated. Also, Lyndon B Johnson, also a member of the Suite 8F club. So this is a Suite 8 group. Yeah, you never guess who's who's also been mentioned here. The Texas oil magnates Sid Richardson and Clint Murchison. That was the guy where the supposed meeting took place one day before the assassination, when LBJ said that, yeah, next day these SOBs of Kennedy won't bother me anymore. So it's all in the sweet 8F club. Governor Connolly, who was in the car during the assassination took place, Lyndon B Johnson, who profited the most, Clint Murchison, at which house this secret meeting was going on, and Mr. Albert Thomas, who then smiled when the inauguration of Lyndon B Johnson took place. What a coincidence! What a coincidence, huh? And there's much more to it, but we will cover that on the next episode of Conspiracies. Because you see that you can go endlessly in all the things, but you won't find the real truth. The only thing that I can tell you is that LBJ had, of course, because we have the official testimony of Madeleine Brown, we have the testimony that he knew that something would happen on the 22nd of November in Dallas, because you don't see him here in that car. That guy is 6'4" or something like this. You don't see it in the car because he was ducking down. Yeah. In that famous picture here, it has been colored here, Kennedy can be seen reacting to being struck by a projectile in the throat. That's the official explanation. While Secret Service agents John Reddy and Paul Landis, riding on the exterior on the passenger side of the follow-up car, can be seen gazing behind them over their right shoulders. No one is taking cover or any furtive action yet, except Lyndon Johnson, who has already ducked, evidenced by his absence from his position in the back seat of his car, being this car. What a coincidence, huh? Yeah. A tale later was crafted that Agent Rufus Youngblood leapt into action from the front seat, pushing Johnson down in the back seat and covering Johnson with his body. Youngblood even received a medal for this supposed act of bravery, which most likely never did happen. Here's how Lyndon Johnson described it to the Warren Commission. Yeah, and this is the last part, but it is very important. Lyndon B. Johnson to the Warren Commission, the own commission which he himself set up. With the head is one of the guys is the next one of the next president, Gerald Ford, and the other is the Sovereign Knight, Military Order of Malta Knight Alan Dulles, who had been pushed out of the office by John F. Kennedy. So all the Kennedy haters in the Warren Commission. So he testified, quote, "I was startled by a sharp report or explosion, but I had no time to speculate as to its origin because Agent Youngblood turned in a flash immediately after the first explosion, hitting me on the shoulder and shouted to all of us in the back seat to get down. I was pushed down by Agent Youngblood. Almost in the same moment in which he hit or pushed me, he vaulted over the back seat and sat on me. It was bent over under the weight of Agent Youngblood's body towards Mrs. Johnson and Senator Yarborough. However, Yarborough, riding in the back seat with Johnson next to Johnson's wife, came forward to announce that this claim was an outright lie, that Youngblood did not such a thing. Yarborough unabashedly refuted Johnson's spurious claim in the book Crossfire, The Plot That Killed Kennedy by Jim Marrs. Although Jim Marrs also does not tell necessarily the truth, but that's for a later session. Now the quote of Mr. Yarborough, at that time being senator. However, former Texas Senator Ralph Yarborough, who was sitting beside Johnson that day, told his author, quote, "It just didn't happen. It was a small car. Johnson was a big man tall. His knees were up against his chin as it was. There was no room for that to happen." Yarborough recalled that both Johnson and Youngblood ducked down as the shooting began and that Youngblood never left the front seat. Yarborough said Youngblood had a small walkie-talkie over the back of the car's seat and that he and Johnson both put their ears to the device. He added, "They had it turned down real low. I couldn't hear what they were listening to." Even if Lyndon Johnson didn't duck until the first shot was fired, why is it that only he and Agent Youngblood reacted to the first shots while no one else in the crowd or motorcade had yet, including in JFK's own limo where he was supposedly shot in the throat? Oh, that's a question that we cannot answer. What we can answer that all these people are being connected in secret Suite 8F clubs and meeting behind closed doors, together with the tax and oil industry, and that Mr. Johnson later on was getting, we know that from the beginning of the session maybe, very religious. Even attending more than a dozen Roman Catholic masses. And having received 6 or 7 weeks before, having received John Carroll Prize of the Georgetown University, and being a sovereign military order of Malta Knight, all the things that the general American public are not getting aware of, not knowing, because it would bother them. It would bother them. Yeah, nothing to see here. Please move on. Yeah, these are only the official pictures. You have to see that from the mass media, CBS, NBC, and all the things. Yeah, this is the media. This is the things they are supposed to see. Don't question anything. Please obey the authorities. And that's what this session comes to an end. And I have talked so many things about LBJ. I said right from the beginning, he's a straightforward guy. You don't have to question him. It's quite obviously, look at the fruits of the people when it comes down to their real meaning. The real meaning is that LBJ was a much better or much more suited in the eyes of the establishment, much more suited and much more Catholic president than John F. Kennedy ever could be. Thank you very much for having me. Until the very next time, I'm handing it over to my beloved brother, Brett.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, very interesting how this history has shaped our politics today. And yeah, that's the truth. You don't really get presented with anything close to the facts. They just want you to be double-minded like them, and that's kind of how this whole thing works. Is yeah, you may have a few questions that might lead you to some kind of truth in your own study, but the overall general public view has always been blocking that information, suppressing that information, and only allowing, absurd things to enter your mind, like the magic bullet theory and things like this. So, yeah, Michael, I'm just so confused by the whole thing, of course. And that's kind of how it is. Life in America is it's planned that way. Actually, it's part of the whole purpose is to keep Mystery Babylon going, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, that's kind of how it works. And of course, if you don't know what Mystery Babylon is, well, just read the book of Revelation and figure it out for yourself. It's pretty easy, actually. That yeah, there was a Babylon a long time ago, and now there's a new one, and it's called Mystery Babylon. And on her forehead is written the names of blasphemy. So yeah, what more blasphemous things could you get than a man that calls himself the Holy Father? That's total blasphemy. But, of course, when you're speaking in these terms these days, people don't take that seriously. It's just the title of the Pope, just get over it, right? Yeah. Well, the Protestant viewpoint never did get over it. It's just that they had to completely eliminate it with people like Lyndon Johnson, who claims to be Protestant but is actually Catholic. So, yeah, it's always a matter of doing your own research, Michael. It just always is, always will be. So I think that fact will not diminish in the future. And we're just headed for more confusion in this land of, modern day Mystery Babylon. No more facts, just more confusion, more disinformation. That's what this is all about. Just, keep the people fooled into thinking that, Lyndon B Johnson is actually a Bible-believing Christian when he actually uses a Catholic missal and swears on that. Yeah, that's something very interesting. But Michael, this is, I think, going to be a very deep study that you're going into, because, quite frankly, I've never heard anything to the magnitude that you're talking about today. So I was quite silent because I was just taking in the information. So thank you, Michael, for the research. Thanks for the time. Looking forward to continuing to get to the bigger picture that you put together in the coming scripts in the future. We'll hope to see you in those sessions. And thank you, Michael, and Maranatha.